have been a part of my life all of my life. I own BK Royston Publishing, which is the faith-based, family-friendly, where children's books and inspirational devotional books are, nonfiction and fiction are. And then I own Royal Media and Publishing, which is a company that does what I call global issues. They may not fit into the faith-based, family-friendly brand. So it is a totally separate brand that stands on its own. Same vital resources and information, but it stands on its own. And then Julia Royston Enterprises is my coaching arm. I'm also the host of Live Your Best Life broadcast on envision-radio.com. And to have a conversation with me, go to talkwithroyston.com. That's talkwithroyston.com. That's my calendar. It's on the Eastern time zone. So if you're in a different time zone, take that into consideration. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and on TikTok. And I tell people you're not going to be finding me dancing on TikTok. But I do have quite a bit of information to share and events to share on TikTok. So TikTok for Business, that's where I am. I've written and published, I've written 55 books, and I published more than 300 and coached more than 200 authors. I'm a writing coach, so I help you get your, what I call from your idea out of your head to Amazon and everywhere in between. So I want to go ahead and start. Those of you who are on the publishing journey, I don't know where you are. I don't know if you've self-published. I don't know if you've already, or you're considering both. We'll talk a little bit about kind of the publishing options. But there's 3 questions I really always ask all authors, whether I'm publishing them or not, whether they're in the writing, my writing coaching. And even if you've published your book already, and it's on Amazon and you're like, why isn't it selling? Go back and ask yourself, these 3 questions. 1, who do you want to talk to? If you've already published it, who did you intend to talk to with that book? What audience are you going for? Because that will make a difference, all the difference in the world. And if you didn't write for that audience, if your book doesn't attract that audience, that might be a part of the breakdown. Number 2, what did you want to talk about? What did you talk about? And then what were you really striving to talk about? And did you communicate that clearly? If you haven't written that yet, if your book is not published yet, you really need to consider, who do you want to talk to? Who do you most associate with? Because everybody in the world is not going to buy your book. Let's just clear that in the air right up front. And then the conversation, everybody's not going to be interested in what you're talking about. They may give it as a gift. They may give it to someone else as a birthday gift, but everybody is not necessarily interested in what you're writing about. And then what format, what genre are you looking at? Nonfiction? Are you willing to tell that topic with fiction, children's, and realize those things automatically? So those are to me, those foundational 3 questions. Because when you determine who you want to talk to, then you'll determine what language you use to talk to them. So we can still be talking about bullying, but we can be talking about bullying to elementary school, middle school children, high school, college age, even into adults. But the language you use for all 3 arenas are totally different. Next, let's really kind of break down a little bit the traditional publishing, the 3 main publishing options, and kind of differently of what they different and how they're definitely different. So traditional publishing, and you can do research, do your own research automatically. And because even from the time that I've done this presentation and previous times, things have changed. So if you're interested in being traditionally published, you need to go to their website and get their submission guidelines. Because some require a literary agent, some require a query letter, some require you to submit excerpts, some require just the outline only. Some require, the certain genres that they're publishing. You need to determine, and does the publishing house control your manuscript, or what does your contract say? And making sure you have an attorney that determines that. One of the biggest things about being traditionally published is they pay you advancements or royalties up front. But normally, depending on the qualifications and depending on what these requirements and your contract stipulations that will determine whether you have rights to your book, you don't, do they completely control it, is it a, all contracts are being totally different today. But one of the primary things that is the big standout for traditional publishing is that you are paid. And then after that, but you have to understand what the fine line is. If you do not sell on that level, do they get their money back, or what does that, how does that work? So knowing exactly what that is different for every publishing house. A traditional vanity press is you pay for all the publishing services. Your book is on the publisher's account. You normally split royalties with the publisher 50-50. You usually retain ownership. I say usually because each contract is different. And you have to go back to the publisher to know royalties and to do print books. That's the traditional vanity presses. Now, all vanity presses are not bad. It just all depends on what your needs are and what you want. Traditional self-publishing is you have to do every step of the publishing process yourself, or hire somebody to do the publishing process yourself. You have to find someone to pay for all the publishing process, from graphics to formatting, the layout to editing, all the whole process. But you become the publisher, you own 100% of the royalties, you order your own books from your own account. Okay, that's traditionally self-published. My company is somewhere in the middle. I do not buy manuscripts. I do not have any access or ownership to your book. The author retains 100% of the royalties. The author will have their own account to order their own books, but the author has their own distribution account. You have your own Amazon account, etc. But the author does pay to have the work done. So all that self-publishing that you had to find, my company can do that for you. So if you say, I think I can do everything else, Julia, I just need a good cover and editing, we can do what I call a la carte services. I also offer writing coaching and all that too as well. So BK Royston Publishing is a for-profit company, but I also offer a la carte services, so you can pay me for whatever part of the process or the whole process. But you have your final documents, you have your own account, you own your own print books, and you retain 100% ownership and ownership of your royalties. So that's kind of the difference of what my company does. The publishing process, of course, you need a completed manuscript, editing, formatting, layout. And that's usually where the difference with self-published books is really the good, the bad, and the ugly. Is that usually in the layout. It's not the story. It's sometimes it's editing, but when I open it up and the pages are on the wrong side, or there's no page numbers, or it's a fiction book and there's either no blank pages and whatever, then that's where the difference in a book that's well done, and it doesn't have to be with a company. You could self-publish it, and I've seen some beautiful done and well done self-published books as well. But it just all depends on the layout, which is really, really critical, as well as editing. The copyright application, upload your documents to one of the major distribution outlets, and then a marketing and promotional strategy. And that's usually the part that people don't understand, is usually the most difficult and the hardest process of this. So we've already talked about publishing options. And of course, the big ones that most people know are Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Ingram Spark, and Lightning Source. There's also Lulu.com. And then, of course, but you can also distribute. Some people you can only get it from their website. They don't want to go and partner with anybody else or do anything else. And then, of course, you can have your own e-commerce store and checkout. Me, I have a combination of all that, but I'll always have my own store and my own website. Okay. So, because I want to kind of answer some questions for you. Hopefully you have questions, you'll put them in the chat and ask me those questions. If you need help, reach out to me, talkwithroyston.com. bkroystonpublishing@gmail.com is my email. bkroystonpublishing.com. And roystonroyalbookstore.com is where I kind of have my bookstore with everything and everybody. And then I do have a special offer. This is my signature series. If you want to self-publish on your own and but you need a guide, I've got a planner. The planner is for my publish and promote, but I do have a full set, Write That Book Now, the workbook, and the book, and for promote as well. That full set is on sale for $40 right there at RoystonRoyalBookstore.com. Now, hopefully I have gone through much of the process, but I'm open for questions because I want to answer what you want to hear. So,
Okay, and Julie, I'm gonna basically read off some of the questions that we've received,
wonderful.
um, and then we can take. We actually have a good maybe 10 minutes to go
Okay.
over these questions, so you don't worry about feeling rushed. A
Okay.
question that I have is, can you again explain the difference between self-publishing and vanity publishing?
Vanity publishing. Now, the vanity publishing houses have basically kind of changed. So you need to check their contracts. But one of the biggest issues always has been with vanity presses is that they control your book. They don't own it. You have the rights to it, but normally your access to your final documents you don't have. And then normally you're splitting royalties with them. And they normally, you have to order any print books directly back from them. I used to have that model, but I don't have that model anymore. Just because you're right, the 250 books on average is what most people sell on average. And I understand that, but that's not everybody. That's just the average because some people sell a lot more. It depends on the time and the place and the book. The other thing is, of course, self-publishing is you're doing it yourself, or you're finding people to do it for you. Now, even when people come to me and I publish their book, my imprint is on it, meaning my logo is on it on the back. And then you might have either bring your own ISBN number and or use one of mine, but um, you still have access. You have your final document. So God forbid I fall off the face of the earth and you need to do something else with your manuscript. You have your final documents. You can order your own print books and you can control all your royalties that you have from one of the major distributors. So self-publishing, you're doing it all yourself, but there are companies such as mine that are kind of bridging the gap for that so that you can get the publishing process from a company as opposed to having to say, Mary did that part and James did that over there and Sally did that and Joseph did that over there.
Okay, I have another question from Carmen. When you have a story idea, what is a great way to begin rolling? I'm sorry, outing and fleshing it out. I've been trying the snowflake method, but does she or do you recommend something else?
I don't use the snowflake method. I just roll it straight out. Now, is that can you ask the person, is it fiction or nonfiction? I suspect it's a fiction book.
I think it is fiction.
So if it's fiction, you need to know your characters. What are the characters? Who are they? What do they eat? What do they wear? Where do they live? And then have a complete, that's the first step that I have for people that are writing fiction, and I've written romance fiction myself, is that I have a profile of the person, the main characters, who's in the story. Write that even before you start telling the story. Write the setting, all of that. Where do they live? What city is it? And if it's not a city that you want to use that exists, make up your own city. And then flesh out the profiles of the people from the signs. I wanted my character to be 1820. I want him to work here. I want him to make this amount of money. They don't cook, they have a cook. Everything down to what they eat, sleep, so that the people will know specifically that character. And of course, reach out to me if I can help you further. But that's where I would start, fleshing out your characters. And I'm going to be honest with you, with fiction, the characters start talking. When you really flesh them out and get to know them, they'll talk back to you. And you won't have any problem writing the story. Your characters will write it. And don't squash that, no matter what you do.
I 100% agree. The next question is, how do I set up an e-commerce account?
How do you set up what?
An e-commerce account.
An e-commerce account. Well, there's all kinds of stores out there. If you have a website, hopefully you get the template that comes with the stores, such as WordPress, Weebly, any of those websites. They have a store already with it. There are a multiplicity of e-commerce options that you can utilize. Shopify, Sellify. It just all depends on what you want to sell and how you want to sell it. As a matter of fact, I have creating a store. I'm teaching people how to use Gumroad as well to create their online stores. Now, just because it's created doesn't mean you're going to be selling anything to it, because the key is going to be the marketing and promotion part. But there are many outlets out there, and I do highly recommend that you have your own inventory of books and you sell from your own site and store.
Great, great. Next question
Next
is,
question is,
what are the
what are
red
the red
flags
flags
of a
of a
questionable
questionable
vanity press?
Um, First off, get it that you have a contract. If you don't have a contract, be nervous. Make sure that you do get a contract. Make sure that if you don't know what the contractual language is, that you get an attorney to review it. Also, there are different timelines with different books. Children's books where you're getting illustrations takes a lot longer than if you have a straight nonfiction book. My timeline turnaround, especially for nonfiction, is 60 to 90 days. And then the other thing, other red flag is if they will not give you any recommendations or referrals. If they will not give you, I mean, I've been in business 12 years, and I just had someone ask me 3 months ago, do you have any referrals? Do you have any other previous clients that you would actually give me? And I gave them a list of 4. So if those are the 2 main ones, the contract and if they don't give you any referrals
Okay,
or
sounds
any
good.
reference.
Well, thank you so much. I just so enjoyed this. I think it's important that we understand how to self-publish. My first book was Vanity, and I thought I was self-publishing. I didn't understand that I was really working with a vanity publisher. And I ran into a situation where you spend the money to work with them, and the marketing, I mean, they become very obsessive with calling every day, wanting you to
Yes,
buy more and more.
yes,
It becomes very uncomfortable fast.
yeah.
And
Well,
so,
that's the
mhm,
way they make their profit margin. And I
mhm,
did the exact same thing. My
mhm.
thing was, because I am in technology and taught technology, they charged me hundreds of dollars to put like 2 dots on the front because they said it needed a little sparkle. But then I realized I had done everything, and that was the only one. But yeah, they do get into harassment, and what I did is I reformatted, reformulated, rechanged the whole book, and republished it myself, and went from there. Now, but you're right. You have to, that marketing and promotion piece though is really key and really critical. That's a partnership that must happen, because it just
Yeah,
can't be on one end and not on the other. That's a whole nother session for a whole nother time.
exactly. I know we could talk about
There's a
this
whole
all
we can talk
day.
about that marketing and promotion piece, because I have problems with the people who do it and then the
Mhm.
authors on the other end, because it has to be a partnership. People want to meet the author. So you got to put that into, before you start on this publishing journey, you've got to be willing to be ready to move forward in the quote unquote public eye. You got to be real and, oh no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't. Okay, well then that'll determine the difference between real success and just selling a couple hundred books. It'll be the difference.
Abs 100%. That is why we're doing this event.
Yeah,
My first event, my first book, I went to book fairs. I spoke at events. I did all types of things. I sold pretty well. And, with